This is Colin Delaney showing, I am an indie guy who happens to have a job with WWE on television.
Yeah. Then we had Teddy, who had signed a new wrestler who they did not identify initially. And Armando stormed in and wanted to know about his contract. And Teddy said it was under review, like this is a long, drawn-out, several-week process. And he said he was starting a new talent initiative and introduced Atlas Ortiz, the former Atlas the Bone. To which Armando immediately replied, and I quote, "You signed this guy?" I wish he would have said I saw him in Ohio Valley and he sucked. But instead he claimed that he'd never seen him before.
Well, the problem there is...
that was very clear in the ring, by the way.
Armando was also in Ohio Valley, and he sucked.
Yeah.
So, yes.
But let me tell you something. Armando Estrada this evening, Ric Flair in his prime. He was a fucking ring general in there with Atlas DeBone.
In many ways, I actually agree with you. We'll get to it, but the first part of the match I was thinking, this is like the best I've ever seen this guy look.
He was the king here. Atlas DeBone fucked up so many things. And every time, Estrada managed to get the match back under control.
That is true.
I must give this man credit.
That is true.
I must give this man credit. So Atlas finally made a comeback, which wasn't all that bad. There was no heat for this match, by the way. And every time during the heat that Atlas went to make a little fiery comeback, something was fucked up. And they didn't turn on this nearly as bad as I expected. I guess it's hard to turn on silence. They just went from silent to equally silent. And finally he made his little comeback. They sort of got into it. And then he won with a, what did he win with, a backslide?
He ironically, like a week after we talked about the backslide as a finish, he won with a backslide.
Yeah.
That's his finish.
Yeah.
So.
He had a couple of athletic moves, but my God.
He reminded me of? Aaron Bolo. Aaron Bolo is in Tulalip Championship Wrestling. That's a bad comparison.
Atlas DeBone is worse, far worse than Aaron Bolo. At least in this match he was.
He reminded me of him in that he has a great athlete with great size and a great look who, well, specifically there was a point where he hit a drop kick. And I've often noted when Aaron Bolo...
I actually thought it was a pretty good drop kick.
It reminded me of Bolo in that Bolo throws his drop kick and he's 9 feet away. And he actually goes flying through the air at his opponent. And on the one hand, it's an impressive athletic feat. On the other hand, it looks bad.
Yeah.
As noted, there are all kinds of fuck-ups that Armando, he would get the match back under control, but he would do so by going to an arm hold or a chin lock. And there were so many goddamn...
Great. Grab a hold.
There were so many holds in this match.
There had to be. He had to grab a hold 15 times.
Yes. And thus, I thought to myself, Jesus Christ, this is going forever. And I began to fast forward. And I watched half the match and fast forward.
How the fuck could you do that?
And then Armando, they did their finish. Atlas did his extremely wacky Atlasing up, where he basically just shakes and screams and shakes his afro around. He shakes his indie body and has absolutely no gear, and it was just bad television. Then he went with a backslide, and I thought, Jesus Christ, I have to go back and see how long this is. I couldn't believe they had given Armando and Atlas, I thought it was like 9 minutes. It felt like an eternity watching this. No, they went 5. They went 5 minutes.
That's still baffling.
It was, and I fast forwarded through at least 3 of them, and I thought it went on forever. This match was a paradox.
Dude, you need to go back and watch this whole match.
It actually broke time.
This is a match you must go back and watch the entire thing. It is phenomenal.
I don't think I have it anymore.
Well, I do.
We'll go watch it after this show.
I'm going to make you watch the entire thing.
But yes, this match was so bad it actually broke the time stream.
Then, of course, we had the main event.
That was the other thing. When this match was over, I thought, wow, they have 2 minutes left for this main event.
And you expected Mark Henry and Colin Delaney to go longer?
No, but Mark Henry killed him.
Mark Henry killed Colin Delaney with the world's strongest slam, and that was the end of the show.
That was the main event.
I have no more to say.
That was
all that happened.
That was all that was to it.
But Mark Henry's awesome. I love Mark Henry squashes. I'll give him that. What the world's strongest asshole. We had the generic Asian interviewing Atlas, and this was when he noted that his friends and family all called him Ricky. And that was it.
Yeah, he's Ricky.
That was his name change.
Which begs the question, do they merely look at his driver's license when he came out last week?
Why does everyone call him Ricky?
I don't know.
What's his real name?
Apparently it's Atlas Ricky Ortiz.
Atlas Ricky Ortiz. So anyway, there's two Atlases, or there were.
So the young one had to go.
Not anymore. So he's now He's now Ricky, and he said, and I quote, "Last week's debut couldn't have gone better."
That was a lie. That was a complete lie.
No, I hope it's the truth. I hope last week was the best of Atlas Ortiz, because I want to see more of him if that's the case. I want to see him worse. So then he said he won his debut and he was undefeated. Wow. And we had Atlas DeBone and the generic blonde backstage, and
this gimmick rules.
Teddy walked up and said, "I used to have hair like you back in the day." And Ricky Atlas, or Ortiz, or Ricky DeBone, whatever the fuck his name is, was like every geek on the first day of wrestling school.
Yeah.
He's like, "I got this great idea for a gimmick. I've got a move that I want to do. I've got an idea for merchandise." And Teddy basically said, "You've been here 2 weeks. Shut the fuck up." And, of course, Ricky goes, "I'm undefeated." His gimmick is that he's a geek on the first day of wrestling school.
Yeah.
And he wrestles like one, too, coincidentally.
It's quite fitting. Teddy said, you've had one match. Ricky said, "I'm undefeated." And I thought, this needs to be his gimmick for the rest of the year. He needs to be 1-0 until, like, January 1st, and then he'll wrestle a second match and lose.
But he's wrestling next week.
Sad.
And then after he left, Tiffany asked Teddy if he really had hair like that, and Teddy said, "Baby doll, that was the 70s. You weren't even born yet." And I thought, that's appalling, but it's true.
Yeah. And then they cut to Taz and Adam Lee, and they were discussing afros in the 70s. And
then we had Chavo Guerrero versus Atlas Ortiz. Atlas's gimmick is he's an indie geek in his second match. He has generic rock music. He comes to the ring acting like he's a megastar.
Yeah.
And he fucked up the first move, which was a body slam.
Yes.
Awesome.
His entrance is so amazing because he comes out, he's banging his head, he is pointing to fans and nodding at them as if they're reacting to him, which I know they are not. Then he plays air guitar for a while. Then he bangs his head. It's like a random collection of every generic pro wrestler entrance ever.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable.
So then Chavo actually did a pretty damn good job with him.
A much better match than his one with Armando Estrada.
Ortiz still looked comically inept in several spots, and the finish was horrible. Chavo went for the cover using the ropes. Bam held on for leverage, and the ref caught him, so it was a DQ.
Yes.
At least we've been conditioned to accept shit in this company now. At least this is not out of the blue anymore. Now we realize follow the goddamn rules, and I'm fine with that. I
do recall seeing a sign here in the crowd that said, "ECW still effing rules." And it was all, I liked the old ECW, it had all the old artwork, and I liked the new one too. And here on ECW, a man was disqualified because his second touched him.
Yeah.
Not touched his opponent, touched him.
Extreme.
Wow.
Extreme, everybody. So, at least Ortiz is still undefeated. And then the bad guys,
thank God.
We're going to beat him up afterwards, and Evan Bourne made the save. And he is the happiest babyface there's ever been, which he has to be on the PG show. But this was great. We had Chavo Guerrero and Bam Neely against Evan Bourne and Ricky Ortiz. They noted that Ortiz was the only WWE star to have ever played in the XFL. And they beat on him forever. A double hot tag to Bam and Evan. This match was absolutely nothing until Evan Bourne finally tagged in. And then it broke down into a four-way. And Evan and Bam ended up in the ring together, and Bourne pinned him. And it was fine. I don't have many memories of this, except that the people went nuts when Evan made his big comeback, so that was good. But the rest of this, there were many jokes I wanted to make about Ricky Ortiz in the XFL, but this match sapped the comedy right out of me.
Yeah, there was nothing spectacular about it. I just laughed my ass off once I realized they were really getting the heat on Ricky Ortiz, because you have the big, strong guy in Ortiz and the small, fast guy in Evan Bourne. 98% of all tag matches, you'll get the heat on the small, fast guy and let the big, scary guy make the comeback.
Can you imagine Ricky Ortiz making a comeback?
As I was about to say, Chavo and Bam said, "No, you suck, and your comeback will make this a horrible match. So you just sell for 4 minutes, let Evan do the comeback, and everything will be fine." And it was. So he sucks. Everyone knows he sucks. And that's that. But they hit his suckiness in an outstanding professional manner, and everything worked out okay.
Ricky Ortiz met with Teddy Long, and he had a new gimmick, a Ricky O'Reilly towel. He said it even had a 0 on it for all of his losses. He said, "Can you imagine everyone in the crowd waving these around? I want you to put up 50,000, or I want the money for 50,000 of these towels." Said it was a great investment. And Teddy said, well, you've done well the last few weeks, but you need to prove it over a longer period of time. And next week you're going to be facing a new superstar right here in ECW. And Tiffany was smitten and started waving the towel around. And then she said, and I quote, "It's fun."
It's fun. And then she waved the towel over her head some more. It's fun.
Fun.
Standards are dropping for the entertainment world.
It's fun, she said.
It's fun.
She found waving this towel fun.
Woo!
I still date her before SoCal Val. Then we had Ricky Ortiz coming out with his new awesome gimmick where he thinks he's Hulk Hogan in 1985, and he's got his Ricky Racket towels. He faced Gavin Spears, who is Sean Spears of Ohio Valley and Florida Championship Wrestling fame. One of the last great workers in developmental, still to be brought up, and he ended up losing to fucking Ricky Ortiz. Not only that, Ricky Ortiz's finishing combination is a shoulder tackle off the middle rope and an Ultimate Warrior big splash, which I swear to God on the children's show they call the Big O. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
This has to be a rib. This entire segment had to be a rib.
There were many, many things here that don't make sense. People actually had Ricky Ortiz rally towels, which leads me to believe they were in his hometown, and his family showed up. Sean Spears came out with the name Gavin. Gavin Spears.
Gavin.
He cut a promo. It was very bland.
Couldn't they have hired Gavin Garrison to have him do the squash?
I forgot about it. The professor.
Hey, we got to watch that this weekend. I got the 1-year anniversary show of Derby City.
Speaking of Derby City, they mentioned here Matt Stryker's putting over the new talent initiative, how it brought you Ricky Ortiz, it brought you Gavin Spears, it even brought you the ref. All I could think was, where the hell is Timmy Baltimore then?
I don't know.
I want Timmy Baltimore on the show right now. And poor Sean Spears, all his stuff looks really good, but he looks like nothing special.
And no one cared.
His name is Gavin Spears. He came out, no one gave a shit about him.
Yeah.
There were occasional Ricky chants. Ricky ran wild with his sloppy, out-of-control offense, and he hit this wacky Big O, where he jumps straight up in the air and arches his back and throws his head and his hands back and then comes down with a splash, and you can't watch this and not laugh. It's impossible.
He's my favorite wrestler on ECW now.
I do love his gimmick. He's an indie geek.
He's an indie geek. He's fucking horrible, and he's got a hilariously bad finish. The Big O.
He's awesome.
Finley cut a promo. This is when we need the songs back to save the program.
I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just telling you what I think about.
This
is how my brain works.
Ricky Ortiz faced Ryan Braddock.
Yeah, let's talk about this one instead.
This was also shitty. Braddock is like a young, dark-haired JBL, and that's where the similarities end.
Without the charisma.
Yeah. Maybe a better worker nowadays because JBL's so beat up, but
He is in better shape.
Ricky Ortiz, there were the Ricky Racket towels. I would never have believed this had I not seen it, but it's true. And no heat. I've written here, am I watching Velocity? These were my real thoughts. I have no idea why we watch this program. Ortiz won. It was horribly lame, except that he won with the Big O, which is money. And that was that. A great finish to a shitty, shitty match.
My favorite part was where Braddock hit the 747, which is also from the 80s, the finishing move where you just ran the guy's face on the mat. Perfectly good finisher. Then you just kept wrestling.
Yeah.
Didn't even cover him. And the announcers were bickering about whose hair Ricky Ortiz was like, and there was a point where Grisham corrected Stryker's grammar and was right. And there was a brief pause, and then Stryker turned over and said, "Look how happy you are." It was a moment from our show. And then
it was a Bryan and Vinny moment.
And then the shitty match continued. That was wise.
And then we had Evan Bourne against The Miz with John Morrison and Ricky Ortiz out there at ringside.
Okay. First of all, they did a bit when they went before they went to commercial. They did a little bit saying coming up, Miz and Morrison, and we saw them riding a cargo elevator for absolutely no reason, which is both terrible and awesome at the same time. Because if you think about it, that's the sort of thing these guys would do, is they would find a cargo elevator backstage and use it to film their own dramatic entrance just because.
Yeah.
So that made it awesome. So they're out there, and Evan's about to come down, and he points out there's two of them and only one of him, and he gestures towards the back that he has backup, and I thought, oh boy, Ray's going to come out. So I was expecting Rey Mysterio, and I got Ricky Ortiz. Bad trade. And
Yeah.
Ricky came out, and he was Ricky Ortiz, and they cut to the ring, where Morrison reacted much like myself, where he removed his sunglasses to get a better view and just stared at the ramp like, what the fuck is this? So then the match got underway.
I have no idea why people ground Evan Bourne for so long. There's a limit to the grounding. I realize that the idea of grounding your opponent is you let your opponent fly around a bit and everybody goes nuts, and then you ground him so that people get impatient wanting him to fly around again. So when he makes his comeback, they go crazy. Well, there's a limit to that. They fucking grounded this guy for so long that people just got bored, and that's not good. So anyway, he made his big comeback. Miz cut him off. Hit a springboard leg drop that looked like he landed heel first in young Evan's face.
That looked like it sucked.
And then Nitro tried to interfere. Ortiz cut him off, and Miz got rolled up for the pin. And it was a pretty good little finish right there, but too much grounding for my taste.
It was not a great match. The highlight was actually Ricky Ortiz leaping off the steps onto Morrison. This guy, his greatest strength is also his greatest weakness, which is just that he is so uncontrollably wacky. And sometimes it's great, and this is one of those times when he leapt off the steps and he threw both his arms into the air and threw his legs behind him and roared and screamed, and his afro was flying through the sky, and he looked quite comical, and I laughed. And then moments later, he was walking up the ramp with Evan, and he decided to steal Morrison's sunglasses and put them on, and this kind of stole the heat from Evan and put it on him, which is bad. But there was also a great moment here earlier when Miz and Evan were brawling on the floor, and Morrison almost got involved, and Ortiz went over there to make sure he didn't fight, and Morrison pointed at Ortiz and said, "Give Carlito his hair back," which made me laugh.
The new greatest wrestler in history is Jack Swagger. I don't have to set my DVR long.
I never have either.
It goes past the top of the hour, and by God, it records the whole goddamn thing. Amazing how that works. There's never a failure with WCW or WWE. There's always a failure with TNA. You ever notice that?
Yes.
I do.
Every segment.
So, I liked Impact this week until the last minute, but we'll get into that later. Jim Ross and the Teacher, who by far are the best commentary team on the earth. I just want to throw that out there after one 60-minute show. So, Todd Grisham was gone, and Miz and Morrison came out, cut a big promo, buried Ortiz, buried Evan Bourne, and anyway, they were ranting and raving when Teddy Long came out. They were bitching about the new talent initiative, and they were trolling Teddy, because Teddy had a response similar to the responses I've had on this show about random trolling. So, anyway, he told them to shut the fuck up, and if they thought they could beat anybody, well, guess what? You two are wrestling each other later. And the highlight of this entire segment, and really the highlight of the year, was when this is what actually caused Teddy to lose his mind. When they were burying the new talent initiative, and Teddy said, "Well, I'm very confident many of these men will become superstars." And Morrison grabbed the mic and said, "Teddy, yeah, good call on that Braden Walker. I'm sure he's been very successful pursuing his future endeavors after getting released from ECW after just 2 matches."
Yeah.
This was the greatest thing I've ever heard.
It will never not be funny ripping on Braden Walker ever again, especially after he cut the tearful promo at his return show. But even
I never saw that. Was it good?
Oh my God, it's Braden Walker crying about how they stole his passion.
Wow.
Think about that. Yes, you must look that up. It is awesome. But even for those of you who only watch ECW and only knew Braden Walker because of his stint on this show, you know how funny it was when they mentioned that he sucked.
Yeah.
And he was a disaster. This event was great. I was struck by the fact that it's basically the same angle as the headline thing on Impact, which they've been doing for like 6 weeks. And Miz and Morrison came out in about 4 minutes. They did a far better job of explaining it. They said, "We are giant stars. We don't have to put up with these young guys. And the fact that Ricky Ortiz got a fluky win over me means nothing." I thought Miz was fantastic here. He got a great promo. He had an awesome hat, this bejeweled fedora that was really cool. And this is a great segment, and the interaction with Long was okay. And then Ricky Ortiz came out, and he was like, "I'll fight either one of you." And I thought, okay, so they have the 2 heels one of them is gonna fight the babyface. Everything's fine. He pinned Miz last week. Maybe he'll pin Morrison this week. Okay. And then Teddy said, "No, Miz is going to wrestle Morrison." And I thought, what? And then he said, "And then Ricky Ortiz will get the winner." And I thought, what the fuck? That was a very strange way to end what had been a great segment.
And then we had Teddy talking to Ricky backstage, and that one girl walked up. Could not remember her name for the life of me.
I know her name, but it doesn't matter.
And I thought, okay, Can you imagine, like, in 96 not knowing Sonny's name?
Who's that girl with the body Donnas?
Girl? Jesus, what's her name? I always forget. What's that chick with Mark Marrow? I just can't remember her name. No, up comes Laurel or Lauren or Tiffany. Tiffany was her name. And they had on this children's show a sex talk where she said that Ricky was up to the challenge, and he said, I have something in my pocket. And Teddy said, it better not be your cock, although he didn't use those exact words, and ended up being a Ricky O'Reilly towel. And Tiffany put it around her neck and said, I like it. It feels good.
Tee-hee.
Tee-hee-hee.
And I may have been a better actor than she was here.
She was horrible. She is the worst actor in the universe.
This is one of those segments where you just stare straight ahead, mouth agape, that you can actually believe what's on your television. Now, as horrible as it was so horrible it was great. But, my God, this was bad.
And then we had the main event, which until the end I thought was awesome. Miz and Morrison. I thought they had a really fun match.
They did a great job of starting with chain wrestling, and then suddenly they were doing, what Jim Ross calls catch can pro wrestling, and then by the end they were just fighting, just hitting each other.
And the fans were into it, which you wouldn't expect.
It was very hard to do for a heel versus heel match like that.
Anyway, they finished. They both fell off the top rope. Couldn't answer the 10 count. And then Ricky Ortiz ran down, and in the most comical run-in of the entire 21st century, he did the big O on both men. And
that sounds gay.
Well, he did.
That's exactly what happened, though.
He did the big O on both men. And as Les Thatcher put it so eloquently on the show, I mentioned that his gimmick is that he's a wrestling school geek, and Les just deadpan, well, that's where he should be. And it's true. He fucking sucks. But goddamn, he made me laugh. So, thumbs up to Ricky Ortiz.
I guess. It's quite a weird finish to what happened a great show. But, yeah, Ricky Ortiz, the babyface, ran in and finished off both of his weakened opponents, which is almost exactly backwards of how it should go. But this was a very fun show.
I wholeheartedly agree. All right, ECW, this show sucked. God, what shitty programming we had this week. We had Tiffany in the ring to introduce Teddy, Matt Hardy, and Mark Henry, who had a verbal debate. She
introduced, ladies and gentlemen, Teddy Long. Teddy was standing right next to her. Didn't say anything.
No.
Then she introduced Mark Henry and Matt Hardy. And then Teddy Long explained, gentlemen, this is your last chance to get your words in before your pay-per-view match. And he should have just said, promote it.
Yeah.
But he gave them a last chance. And Mark Henry, in about 2 sentences, he said Matt Hardy had enough to worry about with his title match or his championship match on SmackDown, and then they had their title match on Sunday. And in 1 sentence, he promoted 2 shows here, which is more than TNA did in 2 hours.
Yeah,
amazing.
So anyway, Tiffany, she did this as if it was the most astounding task that anyone had ever been asked to do in the history of the universe.
She's horrible, yes.
Well, she was all right, but boy, did she look like, man, it's make or break for me here tonight with this fucking announcement.
Reading these names?
So anyway,
not even reading, reciting these names.
Morrison and Miz came out and were angry that Teddy allowed Ortiz to ruin their match of the year last week, and they wanted those nerds, Ricky Ortiz and Evan Bourne, in the ring tonight. And really, on the WWE scale, those are 2 nerds. and anyway, Teddy said fine. Later tonight, Miz and Morrison and Henry against Evan, Ortiz, and Hardy. So there you go.
In comparison to Impact, this was fine.
We had Miz and Morrison and Henry against Bourne, Ortiz, and Hardy. Yes, this is the whole show, by the way. So, anyway, this they had a match, and they got the heat on Evan, and he did a Frankensteiner and made a roll into a hot tag. The babyfaces started making this big comeback. And then all of a sudden, Henry got in the ring to square off with all 3 babyfaces, and they went to commercial. And when they came back, the babyfaces were working over somebody. I don't remember who.
It was Morrison.
But I was once working a match with Buddy Wayne. We were up in Canada. Honky Tonk Man was on the show, in fact. And we were in the opener. And we'd wrestled each other many times, so this was nothing new, but we started wrestling and just everything was going wrong. Tried some spots, they just didn't work. We did like the double duck down for the Olay spot. And finally, Buddy just says, stop. Let's start over.
That's awesome.
And then we started the entire match over again.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I've never heard this story.
No, this is true. He announced to the fans, he screamed, "Stop! Let's start over." And we did. And it was great from that point forward.
Buddy Wayne's the best wrestler ever.
But the point
Just
is,
for that.
That's what this match was.
It
was like they did a match, they made a comeback, Henry jumped in, and it was like, well, let's start over again.
Yeah.
And the baby faces did their little thing at the beginning, and then they got more heat.
Yes.
And then we got the big comeback at the end. And thank God Bourne got the hot tag because it was 9:55, and I almost was ready to fall asleep. This was the most boring fucking thing I've ever seen. They had the heat on Ricky Ortiz.
Ricky Ortiz is horrible, everybody.
He's hideous.
I will say he's definitely better than Rocket Khan.
That's true.
But
everyone is.
There was a point here where as noted, they were after the commercial during the second portion of the match, Ricky Ortiz had John Morrison in a hammerlock. And the ref walks over to him and he says, "Tag Matt." Ortiz stands there for a while, cranks the hammerlock, hits knee to the gut, then drags Morrison over to the corner and reaches out for Evan's hand. At which point, Matt Hardy shouts, "Me, me, 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 me." So, to review.
He's hideous.
The instructions were tag Matt. 2 words, 2 syllables, 7 letters. Too much for Ortiz to handle.
Too much.
So, Matt came in. They did some more stuff. They got the heat on Ricky Ortiz. He's terrible in many other ways, including taking bumps and selling and stuff. And they did a tease of a hot tag. And he's crawling, and he's going for the tag. And Miz comes in, and Miz just hits her with a forearm in the back, and Ortiz goes down. And then he immediately gets back up and gets closer to making the tag.
Yeah.
And Miz had to grab him by the leg and horse collar him, manhandle him back to the corner.
Yes.
He sucks a dick.
He's horrible. So anyway, the only other thing I want to mention about the show is that there is no longer an overrun on ECW going from 9 to 10, which is actually great because that's 8 less minutes of this fucking show I have to watch. But the point is, anybody that tuned in at 10 o'clock didn't even see 1 minute of this to be alerted that it started an hour earlier.
Oh.
But luckily, the rating came out, and it did far better than most people. It was actually above a 1, which stunned me, just baffled me.
People were paying attention, I guess.
Ultimate Fighter, on the other hand.
Well, yeah, they're screwed. But just for official reference, the finish came. Evan got in there with Mark Henry. They did some stuff. Mark Henry immediately slammed him and pinned him. So the challenger got put over strong, and the champion was not buried leading in the title match, so that was fine.
It's how it's done.
Yeah. And I must also say, as dead as the crowd was for most of the show, they actually did come alive for the end of this match.
They did.
Thanks mainly, of course, to Matt Hardy and Evan Bourne.
Yeah.
Who are awesome.
All right, let's take one final call before we wrap it up today.
In fact, I recall looking throughout the crowd in this show, there's a lot of ugly people in Spokane. It's not a pretty town.
Do you ever look at the crowds for any of these shows?
It was especially horrendous this evening.
Jesus.
Beasts.
Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase and Miz and Morrison. You're a real catch tonight, Vince. Against Ricky Ortiz, CM Punk, Kofi Kingston, and Evan Bourne. Ortiz was, as noted, he stuck out in this match.
He's so reliably horrible.
He's ridiculously bad. He messed up his first 3 spots in a row.
Yes.
Then tagged out. Good guys ran wild. And then they beat on Evan during the break and got the heat. And perfect WWE babyface, by the way. Small, great selling, great high spots. So, anyway, ended up with Punk getting a hot tag. And, I don't know.
He ran wild for a bit.
Punk's kicks. That's what it is.
You don't like them.
I don't like his kicks. They just look... I don't know if I've seen too much Mirko Cro Cop. I don't expect Punk to kick people's heads off, but I get the impression that he does kick people's heads off here and there.
And still doesn't look very good.
It still doesn't look very good.
Yes, it's the worst kind.
He doesn't have very good kicks, and he's always kicking. He's got his foot way up in the air, and he stumbles around a little bit. He's off balance. I don't like his kicks. No more kicks, CM Punk. Stop doing them.
Wow.
It's just, I was watching Evan Bourne do all this high flying and all this great stuff, and then Punk gets a hot tag, and he just does these wacky, clumsy kicks.
He was probably the worst athlete in this match, depending on how you look at Ricky Ortiz as an athlete. But I don't care who CM Punk fucks. I would never in a million years say that he's worse than Ricky Ortiz. Come on now. I didn't say worse as a wrestler. He's a much better wrestler, but he may be a worse athlete.
He's fucking Ric Flair in his prime compared to Ricky Ortiz.
Yes, and for all his faults, he was still dearly beloved by this crowd.
Oh, yeah, they chanted his name.
Which is all that really matters.
And then Ortiz hit a pescado.
So they're doing this big finish. All the babyfaces are hitting dives. The place is running wild. CM Punk hoists somebody for the what do you call it? The go to sleep. And the place is going crazy. And then Morrison cut him off, and Morrison hit him with the Moonlight Drive and pinned him. Huh?
Yeah.
Of all the people in this match, they pinned Punk.
Couldn't pin Ricky Ortiz.
Couldn't pin Ricky Ortiz. Couldn't pin Kofi. Couldn't pin anyone on the heel team. No, they had to pin Punk. And he had to be pinned by a guy who was on a different show than him. So it leads to nothing.
Well, guys move show to show. They were obviously all on the show together.
Yeah, but Punk will never get this win back, nor will he vow to get this win back. It's just...
They might do Punk and DiBiase next week. What else do they have?
But DiBiase didn't pin him. Morrison did.
Oh, he did, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
They might have Punk and Morrison next week.
I guess they could.
I think they will. It was a fun main event.
It was a very fun match. The booking just left me bewildered.
No more kicks from CM Punk.
You'd rather he threw sloppy punches instead?
Yeah, I
see.
actually would.
Really?
Because there are a
Right.
lot of guys with far worse punches than CM Punk. His
okay.
punches are fine. He has his springboard clothesline and stuff like that. That all looks good. But his kicks just stick out like a sore thumb. Just bad kicks. That takes the whole act down. You know?
Fair enough.
What else does he do for his moves? Go to sleep, he looks good.
Sure.
Because he usually kicks people right in the face. Springboard clothesline.
When he doesn't fuck it up, it looks great.
His other clothesline.
The knee in the corner, the bulldog.
The knee in the corner looks good. The bulldog looks good. What else?
He uses a lot of kicks.
The only kicks that look good are the kicks where he's really kicking a dude in the face. That's not going to fly.
Or the back of the head.
No more kicks.
I suspect in that match he had with Batista at SummerSlam, he was just kicking the hell out of him.
I command no more kicks. All right.
Yeah, this was a very fun match. Just so basic, so simple, and so easy. And like you say, it's why I like wrestling. I watch wrestling to see matches like this. So I'm very easy to please, really. If they just give me these nice 7 to 8 minute matches with a heel beating up a babyface and a babyface making a comeback, that's all they ask for. And a nice clean finish. Just simple, easy to watch entertainment. And then they had the promo, but in between there's actually a commercial. In between Finlay coming out and actually cutting his promo, and there was a commercial for a show called Chase, which apparently is a game show wherein people run around and other people try to catch them. And I bring this up because one of the people doing the catching is apparently going to be Ricky Ortiz, ECW superstar. And I cannot imagine people running through the streets as Ricky Ortiz chases them.
Now, the final element of the game are the hunters. Their job is to capture you. They're big, and they're tough, and they show no mercy. And just for today, I'm adding a hunter to the lineup.
Good to meet you, Trey.
Good to see you. Runners, meet our special guest hunter, ECW and WWE wrestling superstar, Ricky Ortiz.
I'll eat these people for lunch.
You look sharp.
Thank you.
Now you're official.
I may have to tune in.
Well, Ricky Ortiz faced John Davis, and this is saying very little. But this was the best Ricky Ortiz match I ever saw.
I guess so.
He actually looked like an average ECW pro wrestler. And by that I mean below average.
He looked less good than John Davis, actually.
He looked like somebody who was a pro wrestler for once,
Yes.
as opposed to a guy pretending to be a pro wrestler. So he got the win with the Big O, which remains the best finisher in all of ECW.
Matt Striker actually referred to it as the climax of the match.
Yes, he knows what he's saying.
Yes, he does. So as for the fans who were chanting, "Let's go Davis" in this match, there was a lot to like here for a 2-minute squash.
Boogeyman comes back next week. We had Atlas flirting with the blonde, and then Jack Swagger came up, and Atlas made fun of his lisp. I can't even believe they did that.
They're dumb.
These people have lost their minds. And then Swagger and Ortiz had an argument, and
It was poorly acted.
oh god, this was the most horrible argument.
So then Teddy
Till
Long
TNA.
walked in. Yes, Teddy Long walked in and said, "Hey, you want Tommy Dreamer? Well, he wrestled your match this week. You will wrestle his match next week." So it's Jack Swagger versus Tommy Dreamer, Extreme Rules. I would just like to note that Swagger walked in, and Tiffany was representing Teddy Long, and Swagger started to bitch about his match, and Tiffany said, "Oh, I wasn't watching."
Yeah.
She's not watching the show.
Of course not. I don't even know what her role is.
I don't think anyone does. I think
And Jack Swagger, in fact, asked that question.
Yes,
Why
the
the
topic
fuck
came up.
Why aren't you watching the show? What is your job? She was flirting with Atlas Ortiz.
That's her job, apparently.
Which begs the question, what's Teddy Long's job?
Don't know.
He wasn't there either.
I don't know.
This show. And I like this show.
Yes.
ECW was a fine program, a thumbs-up show, much better than that other show with 3 letters. Jack Swagger came out and did a promo about how he was an all-American American. He had not been pinned in either college or ECW, and so he wanted Teddy Long to come out right now and name him the number 1 contender. So Teddy and Tiffany came out, and her existence is fascinating. What in the hell is her job?
I don't know. It can't be to perform because she's so bad at it. But Teddy Swagger was ranting on about how great he was, how he should be top contender. And Tiffany interrupted and said, Teddy, what about Ricky Ortiz?
Yeah.
She's a mannequin brought to life.
So he was like, well, actually, when she mentioned Ortiz and how he was also undefeated, Swagger leaned back, grabbed his belly with both hands, and howled with laughter.
As he should have.
And Teddy ended up saying, that's not a bad idea or whatever. And Swagger said, seriously. Actually, Ortiz came out and made fun of Swagger's lisp.
I never, ever would have noticed Jack Swagger's lisp if Ricky Ortiz not pointed it out.
No, but now everyone's going to notice.
Yeah.
So anyway, Swagger got pissed and said, let me guess, Teddy, you're going to sign us to a match later on tonight to determine the number 1 contender. Teddy said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it right now. And so we had the match, which was all right. Jack Swagger...
My exact words are, watching Swagger work this geek over equals good times.
Yeah. So Swagger schooled him on the mat a bit, sold for a while, got some heat. There was a completely horrendous comeback by Ortiz. And then he missed the Big O. Swagger hit him with a clothesline outside, a doctor bomb in the ring, and it was over. Clean pin. That's the end of the win streak of Ricky Ortiz. Thank Christ. I am a Jack Swagger fan.
Yeah. He is a lot of fun. He is certainly a better choice than Ricky Ortiz. I will say most of the horrendous comeback was Ricky Ortiz's fault, but there was a point where Swagger was taking bumps and he just looked goofy. And not in a good, funny, laugh at the heel way, just like a guy who didn't quite know what he was doing yet.
I want to mention something about that promotion that I didn't want to mention here, but I'm going to mention something again, and this is a legitimate statement about what's wrong with that company. There's a reason ECW is the best show on TV right now. And that is not only the fact that it's an hour long, but we have 3 matches max. The main event is usually long and good. And most of all, we have new, fresh faces on this show.
I'll give you a 4th reason. It's simple.
Well, forget all that. The point I'm trying to make is Ricky Ortiz sucks, but he's a fresh face. And, of course, we've got Jack Swagger on there. He's a fresh face. DJ Gabriel is on there. He's a fresh face. All these guys are getting a chance here. We're going to have Mark Henry and Tony Atlas teaming together at the pay-per-view, which is something new. It's going to be horrible, but it's something new at least. Who is in that other company that's fresh? Mick Foley? Yeah, he's just a commentator.
Cute Kip?
No, he's not fresh. He's been there for 4 years.
I'm as Cute Kip, though.
Who in that company is, new? We've seen the same fucking guys. This is worse than Raw. The same guys over and over and over year after year. They have no developmental.
I would disagree that's the worst thing about it, but that is... Your point is right.
Every Impact is exactly the same, just with different shit.
That is true.
The same guys, the same geeks are in the X Division, the same guys are on top. It's the same thing over and over and over again. ECW is great because it's something new. Jack Swagger's awesome. Thank Christ for Jack Swagger. Thank God for Ricky Ortiz, of all people.
Thank God for DJ Gabriel.
He's wacky. I enjoy Ricky Ortiz. We had Tiffany meeting with Kofi, Punk, and Ricky Ortiz.
This was It cannot follow the prior segment, but it was fairly awesome for what it was, which was CM Punk openly burying Ricky Ortiz and his stupid fucking rally towel.
Yeah, and Ricky Ortiz is a babyface, by the way.
I'm fine. That doesn't bother me. He sucks.
We had Ricky, Punk, and Kofi against Miz, Morrison, and Jack Swagger. This was bad.
Well, that's true.
This was... Ricky Ortiz is hideous. I don't know if anyone's noticed that before. And the big thing about this match was Punk immediately, like within the first 5 seconds, started doing his comeback. So whenever that happens, it's like, okay, well, you're not doing the comeback at the end. And so then we had Kofi getting in there, and he got cut off. And I thought, So Punk has made his comeback, and the heat's on Kofi. So if there's a hot tag here, you telling me that the hot tag is going to Ricky O'Reilly here? And the answer was, in fact, yes.
Mm-hmm.
He made a comeback. There was... Dave explained this to me because I didn't even know this part, but there was a train wreck outside. A complete train wreck where somebody tried to do something, and then somebody did a dive, and somebody was out of position, and there was crashing and burning. And apparently this match was heavily edited.
I see.
So that means that either what they edited was so much worse than this, or this was the worst shit that they couldn't fix. So either way, this was awesome.
All I know about that train wreck spot was there was a point where Kofi Kingston had a tope to Miz, which is not in and of itself remarkable, but Miz was on his knees at the time and facing like sideways to the ring, which is a poor way to catch a man doing a tope on you.
So anyway, then Ortiz tried to springboard and nearly fell off the ropes, and he was kicked in the gut en route and then hit with the Dr. Bomb for the pin, and this was quite horrible. So
this is a bad ECW.
I also did like at the end they called Miz, Morrison, and Swagger the Young Guns. So apparently Ortiz, Kofi, and Punk are either old men or cowboys. Take your pick.
Or Indians.
Or Indians. So one or the other. All right, let's play a song here, and then we'll go to everybody's favorite. Who knows?
I don't know.
Ricky Ortiz faced a jobber.
Ricky Ortiz is still employed.
Yeah.
I was flabbergasted when he came out and realized this man had survived the cuts. They still think he can be something.
No heat for the match. And
it was one of those... I was so flabbergasted he was there, and then it was so bad, all I could do was write down everything he did. He did moves like headbutts and an Irish whip. Then he body slam and a back breaker. Then he threw some forearm drops and he tackle and hit the Big O and won. That was the whole match.
This was not really all that good, everybody.
It was bad. There was no heat.
Poor.
And there was no
below
reason.
Average.
I left the segment.
Subpar.
I left the segment still being surprised Ricky Ortiz had a job.
Shitty. Jack Swagger come out and said that he was going to have his official title celebration tonight, I believe like 3 weeks after he won the belt.
Yeah,
so,
and has defended it several times.
Pacing himself here. And so they started playing his music, and then Boogie appeared and started gyrating. And somehow this led to Boogie against Ricky Ortiz.
Stop! Boogie Man in a wrestling match with Ricky Ortiz.
Yeah.
No tag partners, no stipulations, nothing to hide the action that would be Boogie Man wrestling Ricky Ortiz.
Well, there was. Boogie clotheslined him over the top, Ortiz ran away, and they played Boogie's music again.
And by the way, in that 6 seconds of action, it sucked!
Yeah.
Horrible idea. Ungodly bad idea.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it again.
Okay, who could they put Boogeyman with, Vince? It would not be a bad idea.
They should cut both these guys.
All right. Then Ricky Ortiz met with Dreamer and gave him a pep talk, which consisted of him saying, "Come on, man, you're Tommy Dreamer."
Then he said, "Rally up." I'm not sure which of these.
What the fuck kind of a pep talk is that?
I'm not sure which of these is more absurd.
Vince, come on now, cheer up. You're Vince Verhey.
That's the problem. Yes, I see your point. And Tommy Dreamer stood up to say something, and then he went back to the announcers.
They just cut away.
As befuddled as you are.
Jeff Hardy and Ricky Ortiz. Ortiz had an 80s style inset telling us to rally up behind him tonight.
This match really happened, everyone.
Yeah.
He's not joking.
And worse, it just kept going. Jeff Hardy was selling for Ricky Ortiz. Now, I've ranted about I wish it was Morrison and Charlie Haas. I was ranting about this. And people are going to say, well, Bryan, why isn't this the same thing? No, this is different. I'm going to tell you why.
A couple reasons.
Number one, they were trying to shoot Morrison to the moon. When you're trying to shoot a man to the moon, he doesn't go toe-to-toe with the guy that was playing Hulk Hogan a month ago. Number two, Jeff Hardy is always an underdog, and people always will get behind him. You never see a Jeff Hardy squash match. It just doesn't happen.
He did take out Kendrick and Ezekiel a few months ago.
Well, there was that. But so anyway, I was fine with this, and he won in the end.
And the bigger thing is, Morrison has been a heel tag team for years, it seems.
He needs all the help he can get.
He has just now turned into a singles babyface act. That's when he needs to be pushed.
Jeff Hardy needs no help right now.
Jeff Hardy has been a single star for a long time, and people have always loved him. So selling for Ricky Ortiz for 8 minutes is not going to hurt him.
I would also like to note that Jeff Hardy remains one of the best workers in the company. You never really think of Jeff Hardy as like, wow, what a great worker that Jeff Hardy is. Let's look at some of the guys he's had great matches with. Ricky fucking Ortiz.
This was Ricky Ortiz's best match ever.
This was his best match that he'll ever have, perhaps.
I don't doubt that.
I do not see him getting better by the week. He's stagnated.
He's in his 30s, for Christ's sake, yes.
So, yes, this was the best match he'll ever have, and I also believe that Jeff Hardy gave Vladimir fucking Kozlov the best match he ever had.
It stuck out now because it's so clearly the anomaly, but yes, I remember I was thinking I'm becoming a fan of Kozlov, and no, I'm a fan of what Jeff Hardy did with Kozlov.
Yeah. So then Jeff did a promo and talked about how Edge's history is winning a title and then losing it the next month, which was in fact true. It's called Killing Your Title, and he revealed that on television. And then he said he was going to win the belt Sunday for all of them. And there you go.
This is actually a hell of a promo.
Yeah.
Largely because Jeff's been the guy who, when he gets a shitty line of dialogue, just says, okay, and delivers it as poorly as possible. This time he went off script at least once when a fan shouted, "You're the greatest," and he said, "No, you're the greatest." And everyone cheered.
Which I'll bet Jeff Hardy is greater than that fan, to be honest with you.
I didn't see the fan. Can't honestly say, but the odds are in Jeff's favor. Yes, he may have been lying here.
Anyway, Jim Morrison and Crime Time against the world's greatest tag team and Ricky Ortiz.
Yes.
Ricky Ortiz, let me say this. He still sucks a cock.
Okay.
But he is so much better as a heel. It's
because at least then you're supposed to laugh at him?
Yeah. He's like so awesome as a heel. So anyway, Charlie Haas is
he's not
fantastic.
Awesome, but...
And they had a match. It was fun. They broke down into a 6-way. That was a mess. Bodies were everywhere. Thank God the show was taped. And then Morrison necked Haas and hit the full twisting split-legged moonsault for the pin. Why is Haas getting pinned in these fucking matches? I don't know.
Ortiz, you got to protect Ricky Ortiz.
Oh, yeah. You got to protect Ricky Ortiz and Shelton fucking Benjamin.
The best part was when the JR started discussing Ricky Ortiz, and he started to say, sometimes he overstays his welcome. And there was a brief pause, and he came out right out and said, sometimes he misses his cue. Just buried him for going long at some point somewhere.
Ricky Ortiz, Charlie Haas, Shelton against R-Truth, Crime Time.
Ricky Ortiz is still employed.
This was one of those matches where if I had been on Ricky Ortiz's team, I would have screamed, "You've got a partner!"
Dude, Jim Ross noted this. He was working with Shad. It sucked. Then they cut Shad off, so they had the heat on him, and Ricky Ortiz kept wrestling. And finally, Jim Ross can take no more, and he just says, it is a tag match. Ricky can tag out.
I remember all these tag matches.
Moreover, he's Ricky Ortiz. They're Shelton and Charlie. They're better than him.
I remember all these tag matches I used to have with Buddy. And Buddy was great at tag team matches. And we'd always do the spot where the guy goes to whip you in, you reverse it, Buddy puts his knee up, hit the guy in the back with the knee, guy stumbles to the middle, you give him a DDT or whatever, and then you tag out.
Yeah, promptly.
Always. There's always. Not Ricky Ortiz. Ricky gets the heat and just keeps beating on the fucking guy. You've got 2 partners in this match.
I would never pay to see Ricky Ortiz wrestle, but I would pay a lot of money to see him attend the Buddy Wayne training school.
It would be awesome.
That would be good fucking times.
Just have him attend Ohio Valley with Rip. That would be awesome.
I guess that would work too, yeah. So anyway, eventually it turned into a big clusterfuck.
I see no reason to continue talking about this match at all.
Truth Pin Shelton.
So then we had the Finlay and Ricky Ortiz had a quick match. Finlay beat him. Ricky tried to rally him up before the match. Got a slap to the face as a result.
Yeah.
And then Finlay beat the shit out of him and won.
I was a little disappointed. I thought I thought there was going to be a severe ass kicking here. And really, there was one hard slap and then a pretty basic Finley match. So that let me down. But for what it was a 2-minute match. Yeehaw.
Great Khali and Ricky Ortiz. Boy, this sucked. Thankfully, it was 2 moves, a chop to the head and a tree slam. And that was the end of Ricky Ortiz. And I skipped a segment, but doesn't matter. I'll get to it in a minute.
All right, yeah.
But Kane then kidnapped Ranjin Singh. So I guess they do kidnapping again.
Sure. I don't know. Yeah, Ricky Ortiz came out. He knew he was fucked, but as soon as he walked out, you could tell. And gave it his all for what he could for the 30 seconds it went. Man, he took the tree slam and he jumped way high in the air and Khali threw him down. So that was the end for Ricky. And it was awesome because Kane laid out Khali somehow, and then that's right, came through the crowd and laid him out. And then Kane stared at Ranjin for a while, and Ranjin got the "I'm fucked" look in his face. And I thought, is he going to be trapped in the ring? It was not that bad. He rolled out of the ring, and then he ran around to the side of the ring Kane was on. And so I thought, well, you could turn around and run away. But no, he ran into a corner. He ran to over by the timekeeper's table, and he tried to hide in plain sight, and Kane caught him. So this was dumb.